Hello, I'm James, and I'm an old guy in Europe. Hello, and welcome to another episode of An Old Guy in Europe. This week, I again joined Carl Munson on his Good Morning Portugal Show back in September of 2022, and we discussed the relationships between caveman, cavewoman brain, phobias, survival, evolution, and DNA, and what all of that has to do with why we care about what others think of us. So, I invite you once again to please sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Swing.
Bom dia!
How are you, my friend? Tudo bem? Hey, hold on a minute. Why don't you do it in Portuguese? Who doesn't like to do it in Portuguese first thing in the morning? What is this here that you've got on the screen?
Well, the beginning is my, normal greeting. Bom dia,
Usual.
Bumper. Feliz segunda a todos. Happy Monday. And como foi os vossos... Easy for you to say. Vossos fim de semana.
Oh, don't do that when I'm drinking tea.
Which I learned, and I'm still working on. I'm just using what I know as the consistent rules to mean possession of multiple people, all of you, which is very difficult to find in a translator. And Google always uses você, which isn't used in Portugal. So it was difficult to figure this out, but I think I got it right. Os vossos is you all.
Yeah.
Weekend, you're all, it's a possessive. So how was everybody's weekend, or all of you, your weekend?
How was your weekends, everybody? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And so that's in the same way that I might say y'all with my Porto.
Yes.
Did y'all have a nice weekend in Porto? It's the Portuguese y'all, isn't it? Vossos.
Well, actually, maybe the Portuguese. In America, y'all means you, singular. All y'all is plural. All y'all.
All y'all. We should. Sounds like a Portuguese word, doesn't it? All y'all. Queria all y'all, faz favor. I don't know what you
I
get.
was taught that by a southerner once.
That is a brilliant bit of information. Not in any way Portuguese, but a fascinating fact. Thank you very much for that. Then, so, como foi os vossos fim de semana? How was your weekend, everybody? Let us know in the chat. Let's get this gentleman up on the screen and out of the way. Then, good advice. Is this about the sushi, possibly?
I don't know. I just thought it was straight to Will Rogers' wit. He can be that kind of funny. He observes politics a lot, but he also says things that, like, if you can't identify it, don't stick it in your mouth.
Y'all.
Y'all. All y'all.
It's good life advice, that, isn't it? Definitely. Whether you're foraging, whether you're going to a swingers night, whatever it is, that's great advice, I think, there. We don't judge. We do a little bit. Anyway.
It could be a reference to sushi, then. If you don't recognize it, wait, you've been missing out on that one.
Waiter, excuse me. So, James, what has been on your mind? What are the thoughts? I was going to say, what's the thought? It's going to be thoughts. It's going to be plural, isn't it? What are your thoughts from the record in this last week?
Well, it's actually been over a few weeks. It's something I kind of teased a couple of weeks, 3 weeks ago, and then got distracted. And so I think I want to get to that this week. And Michelle Leminer actually called it this morning. I think that's why she said, because I said psychic, and her comment, I think, was about that, but I don't really know. Anyway, I've made mention of this, of the reptilian brain, or the caveman brain, or cavewoman brain, in reference to understanding human behavior. And I've said about political behavior, if something doesn't make sense to you, like you're trying to put it together and it's just not coming together, follow the money, right? That's where the default trail. Follow the money, then it will make sense. And so with human behavior, there's my comment. So with human behavior, I say if human behavior just isn't making sense somehow, you can't put it together, follow the DNA, follow the survival, because that's what's hardwired deep in our original little reptilian brain, which, as far as I understand it, every living thing that has a brain has a reptilian brain, even if they're not a reptile. It's basically the fundamental very beginning of a brain that somehow causes behavior. And that's then very shortly in slightly more developed species, followed by the limbic brain. So the reptilian brain is essentially about survival, aggression, defending territory. What is the term in Star Trek? The prime directive of the reptilian brain is don't die until you've procreated. And that's basically it. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And we still have that. That's a part of our brain. It was the very first beginning structure of our brain. And then the limbic system goes to reproductive drive and some very early, not even necessarily nurturing, but assuring that the offspring survive. So those are our two very hardwired in essential original brains. So when something isn't making sense to us, like, why am I afraid of needles? And that's a big one. People are like, they'll faint because there's a needle. They see one. They don't even have to touch it. There is an aversion to it. Well, if you say, well, that doesn't make sense. If you go to survival, often in our caveman days, if our skin was broken by anything, we would get an infection and die.
Yes, indeed.
So hardwired into our DNA was stay away from sharp things. If you break that skin, you will die. So then it begins to make sense. Spiders, snakes, heights. Those are all things that it's like if I'm not averse to that, I'm taking a chance that I'm going to end up dead. And those are the kinds of phobias that are the hardest to break. Some you can't, because it's so deep into that caveman brain. Now, there's comedians who make lots of great humor about this, and it really is quite funny. I can't think of any examples right now, but you can imagine they just go to the caveman. Cavemen say, this, that, or the other thing. I know when I was in school, we were taught about the sort of autonomic reflex to being threatened, and it was always said, fight or flight. But since that time, they've added freeze. So because those are survival mechanisms. Like, why would someone freeze if danger was present? That doesn't make sense. Well, some species actually survive by freezing because they have great camouflage, or they can hide, and if they don't move, they survive. Some animals pretend they're dead. I don't know if you've ever seen the fainting goats, but talk about hard wiring.
That sounds like a garage band from California.
You got to look up videos on fainting goats, because if you scare them, you just go, boom, they just drop. It's totally stiff, like a dead animal. Instantly. No matter what they're doing, they get frightened, they just go, bah! And they fall over. It's hilarious. That is the brain function that says this is how we will survive. If we just freeze and they're not even pretending to be dead. They just actually physically go catatonic for a few seconds.
And sometimes there's some actual evidence from Australia. Dog Reuben freezes. Frogs do that as well, I think, don't they? Or they go very stiff to pretend to be stoned. Yeah, incredible.
So freeze got added to the list of fight and flight as survival mechanisms. So then I've always been interested in human behavior and how this connects to more sophisticated or more evolved behavior. Some might argue the word evolved, but I read a book with a really hokey title called Secrets About Men Every Woman Should Know by a woman named Barbara DeAngelis. And it made a lot of sense to me. It was one of the first books I read on the differences between men and women that didn't make it feel like being a man was wrong or being a woman was wrong. It's just, we're different. And DeAngelis talks about speaking different languages and a bunch of stuff that applies. Later, I heard someone describing what they had been reading from John Gray's Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And I said, wait a minute, that's the same book. Someone's plagiarizing somebody. So I did a little research, as I do, and discovered that they were living together partners for a number of years. So then I said, oh, okay, so this was a breakfast over coffee conversation that got developed into two different books. That's my best guess. But in those, at least in the Barbara DeAngelis book, I never read John Gray's book. I figured I already had, based on what I've been hearing. But Barbara DeAngelis talks about DNA memory. Like there's actually memory in the DNA. I don't know that it's scientific, but she gives examples of human behavior that doesn't quite make sense. And she refers to giving examples of stereotypical male behavior. You go into a restaurant. She says, if you want to make a man uncomfortable, she's talking to the women audience, you want to make a man uncomfortable on your first date, take the seat where you have the view of the room and make him put his back to it and just watch him squirm. She says 9 times out of 10, if the man takes the first seat, he's going to take a seat where he can see everything. And I looked at my own behavior. I said, wow, I never even thought about that. But yeah, I started noticing my impulse every time I went into a public place to sit down was to take the seat. It never thought about it. It just felt like, oh, this feels right. Yeah. And it was that. And so you go, well, why would that be a behavior? That seems stupid. But if you go to survival, it's not. Yeah, I can see my enemy approaching. I can see the attacker who's coming to kill me and, rape my wife and destroy my children. So caveman, I'm here to defend those things, because that, back to the reptilian and limbic brain, assures the survival of my progeny. Ultimately, it means that my gene pool will continue on. So other more modern behaviors that she mentions is she refers to the modern man as the displaced warrior, because part of our function with that aggression and that defending and protecting is built into our DNA, and that comes out as aggression and tendency to fight and those kinds of things. But in the modern world, there's been less and less of a place for that. It's like, it's not okay to just punch someone in the nose because you think they're threatening you. So what do we do with that? And she says, well, business, especially corporate business, is one model of how civilized man goes in and competes and destroys his enemy. And the military is another. So it's like, oh, those things that may not make sense. Why do we behave this? Why do we have armies? Why do we fight wars? It's kind of gets down to that fundamental DNA reptilian brain that is a part of us. One thing I'll get back to it, I guess. There's so many directions you can go with these things. So the one thing that I have learned and that I understand is like, how is it that we're not victims to this way of thinking? How is it that we just, we're not just punching people in the face all the time as men, or, whatever the female equivalents are? I focus primarily on the men because that's what I was personally interested in. And what I began to realize is that one of the things that distinguishes the human species over almost all other complex species. And there's some arguments about, dolphins and chimpanzees, and I'm not here to argue those. That may be so as well. But humans at least have the capacity to overwrite the programming.
Well
the
said.
DNA is the programming. It says punch someone in the face if they threaten you. But we can then go to one of my favorite words, choice. Choice is a fundamentally human or very complex brain process. We can choose to behave differently than our wiring demands of us. And so in that, we struggle. It's like, the impulse is to punch, but I'm not supposed to do that. I could go to jail or whatever. So what do I do? Then we're left with finding ways of not behaving that way in the face of having that reaction. To me, that's fascinating. So, why do people punch people in the face? It's like, well, it doesn't make sense. It just seems like such a uncivilized way of behaving. Well, guess what? It is. It is. It's a caveman way of behaving.
Yes.
Right. So ultimately, because this ties back all the way back to our thoughts and questions about why do we care what other people think about us? We've had that conversation. I believe that goes to our DNA as well. It doesn't make sense. Why do we give a crap what other people think of us? Why should that even matter? Well, we are social beings, and our survival depends on being connected with other human beings. And if we aren't included, if we aren't part of that group, our chances of dying are much greater, especially historically as a caveman. If I was kicked out of my tribe and left to fend on my own, I was much more likely to die than if I had a community to live in. And that, to me, is how this all comes together ultimately to our Monday message, is that we need each other. Right? We need each other. That's why we care. Now, can we overwrite that? Can we stop caring so much that we deny our authentic self? Yes, we can overwrite that, but understand the compulsion to fit in. And then we get to choose the process of how do I let go of that and be who I am without fear of dying, essentially, because to be afraid to die at every human situation is not a very fun way to live. So,
Mate. Very good. Very good. And I don't think Trevor will get disappointed. Getting our banana slug fix to start the week off right. Absolutely. This is resonating strongly. You have created disturbance in the force again. That thing about playing dead, I instinctively do it with my wife yells at me. It really is a survival thing.
João,
Morning, what do you like? And it also comes back to the notice thing. I did it myself when I woke up this morning. Had the alarm clock again. I have things on my mind, and my process this morning was actually I didn't know I was doing it, but I went through the thing you're talking about, is to notice, is that my reptile brain bringing certain thoughts and feelings up? And okay, let me just notice, is it or not? Yes, it seems to be. And what am I really? Am I that reptile brain? No, I am my possibility. I am my inspiration. I am what I choose to be in life. So what would I do if I'm those great things rather than my primal uncivilized reptile self? And you create a different day on the spot, don't you? Just like Albert Einstein was saying when he joined the show earlier on, kind of, if we change our thinking, we change the world, don't we? And so thank you very much for teeing it up this morning in that way. Fantastic. Truth of it all to you, James, it might be a bit early, but I have my deepest thoughts first thing and late at night. I think a lot of us do, don't we? The God you worship is the person you become. That's another way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely in alignment with what we've been talking about. What we think we become, how we attribute that, whether it's, neo-spiritual and the universe, whether it's a particular God of a religion, whatever that place is that we can be still and identify our thoughts, that's that place. And it very often happens going to sleep, waking up, and I will also in full transparency, say often when I'm using the toilet.
Yes.
A moment to yourself. It's like, oh, inspiration. All of a
And
sudden,
funnily enough, you look at is this you, I wonder then? Gilda will be with you in just a moment, and we'll have a lovely chat and catch up with you in just a moment. But look, Robin Williams knew the world would need this picture one day. That relates exactly to what you just said, doesn't it? As if by magic.
on every level, if that's not a log.
Look at that. Oh, God bless you. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. And thank you. God bless you as well, Banana Slug James, for being